Subliminal messaging in the marketing world. It is a common tool used in the field of advertisement. To the right, you can see a picture of Africa. However, if you look closely, you can see a child looking up and a woman looking down in the picture. What is it? The exact definition of subliminal marketing is a message or a signal designed to pass below the normal limits of perception. This means that a consumer will not be able to tell immediately what the marketer's intended purpose is. It can be used to manipulate the consumer without them even noticing the message in the first place. This will affect the consumer most likely on a later date when they are thinking or analyzing the product again for a possible purchase. It can be used for positive purposes as well as a negative. Fast foods use subliminal messaging often to promote their unhealthy product, and political campaigns use it to persuade voters to their agenda. What does subliminal marketing do? It creates preferences in consumers. If the consumer likes the message, they will most likely repurchase the product. Less likely to work if there are already pre-existing preferences. However, if there is already a preference, the consumer will most likely never notice the message. Now comes the subconscious versus conscious. If your mind hears "I'm a winner," it might dismiss the idea immediately. However, if it subconsciously takes it through a video, it might work better on their morale. Here are some examples of subliminal messaging in the modern day world. With FedEx in between the E and the X, there's an arrow that is formed pointing to the right. In Wendy's, if you look closely under the collar, it can be pointed out that it forms the word mom.
Subliminal messaging is also evident in movies and television. In this example, the text inscribed on the ring in this scene in The Lord of the Rings has an uncanny resemblance to the words Coca-Cola. This subconscious influence would be especially impactful in the movie theater, especially if the viewer is thirsty during the film. This type of advertising is far too subtle to be considered outright product placement. The average viewer might not notice the resemblance on a conscious level unless it is pointed out to them. However, Coca-Cola is a widely known household brand, and the average viewer would likely be aware of the brand and thus subconsciously motivated to purchase a Coke. Just like other marketing techniques, subliminal advertising seeks to create preferences in consumers over other competing brands. However, subconscious influences are less likely to be successful if the consumer already has pre-existing preferences. To use the previous example, if you are already a consumer loyal to the Pepsi brand, it is unlikely that the hidden Coca-Cola message in the film will sway you to change your soft drink preferences. So, is subliminal messaging an effective marketing technique? The success of a subconscious influence is contingent on two factors. First, the consumer needs to have already heard of the brand, and second, the consumer needs to have some sort of motivation to purchase the product. In the Coca-Cola example, the first condition is almost certainly covered, as Coca-Cola is a far-reaching brand. However, in order for the message to have a higher chance of success, the consumer watching the film needs to be motivated to buy the product. As I mentioned before, this is likely to succeed while watching the movie in a theater, as many viewers become thirsty during the film and are motivated to purchase soft drinks at the concession stand. While subliminal messaging doesn't necessarily violate any laws or corporate social responsibility principles, there is still a lot of debate on whether or not it is considered manipulative to the consumer, and this kind of marketing does have an effect on how consumers view your overall marketing message and your brand as a whole. This type of advertising has to be clever yet concealed in order to successfully influence the subconscious. If the consumer figures out the trick, it will most likely no longer have the intended effect, and depending on the individual, it could be seen in a negative way as manipulative, or in a positive way as clever and creative. However, because subliminal marketing is dependent on a number of conditions and could potentially jeopardize your brand reputation, it might be better to stick to a more direct, conscious-oriented marketing technique as a primary strategy, leaving subliminal messaging as another tool in a larger repertoire of marketing tactics.